Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevate the Soul Academy. We are in our third section of Mastery Course of Inner Peace and Healing. And in this section, we are covering Empath's Survival Guide. Thank God, finishing up the codependency series was a major success. Baruch Hashem. And now we are in this book, Empath Survival Guide. So to recap a little bit of what we were discussing, if we are an empath, I know some of you were able to tune in to last week. For the ones that weren't able to tune in to last week, did you manage to catch up?
Me, I did.
Okay, perfect.
I've been good about it.
Good, good. Amazing. All right, so we all discussed how what it's like to be an empath, how we're constantly exhausted and tired, and we can get overstimulated, and we have a tendency to overfeel things, feel things, take things too personally, absorb things that don't belong to us. We also spoke about the different types of empaths, and I'm going to go over them real quick. Let's just get to the page. Yeah, the different types of empaths are the physical empaths, emotional empaths, intuitive empaths. And within the intuitive section, we have telepathic, precognitive, dream empaths, mediumship empaths, plant empaths, earth empaths, and animal empaths. So before we go on to chapter 2, which is going to be empaths, emotions, and health, how to stop absorbing other people's emotions, does anyone have any questions or would like to say anything regarding our previous class that we had last week?
Yeah, Becca.
Yeah.
What were precognitive ones? Were those the ones that like see things before they happen?
Yeah.
Okay, whether it's like in a dream or not or something, like those are the ones that always go deja vu or something?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Yeah,
sure.
go
I
ahead.
would like a little more insight as to what kind of empath I am. I was listening to the recording and I was like wishing it was live because I just wanted to kind of.
Okay, so do you want me to go over the general types of empaths so you could find out which one
No,
you want?
I would more like to just share a bit of my experience and you tell me like what that is. Because I feel like maybe I'm not so, I could be more in tune with my intuition, but I do think I have a lot of intuition. And I'm wondering, maybe you have some intuition about my intuition. Because I know that you have a lot of intuition. Ask Tati, okay?
Yes.
So my mother actually told me that I used to sleep in her bed till I was like 3 years old.
Mhm.
And when I was close to 3, she was laying in bed and she was thinking that she needed to get a divorce. And she said it right at that moment, like right around that time, I looked at her and I said, "Mommy, promise me you'll never leave me." So that's just like a story that she tells about me. I know there's definitely I remember one time very clearly when I was just like, I was a dorm counselor in a high school and like everyone was practicing for production in this theater. And I just felt this wave of like horrible energy. And I was like, something creepy is happening there. And there was like some weird stuff going on in the school, but I just remember that time I felt it in a very extreme way. In general, I definitely absorb people's emotions a lot. And like, I'll look at a picture and I even like when it comes to like certain politics and I'm like, I see something so much different than anybody else. Like they're just thinking of the fight or whatever's going on. And I see the people's faces and the things they're going through. And it hurts me when I see that. So I don't know. I mean, obviously there's more to say, but those are just some examples. I'm wondering if you have any insight.
Yeah, you are very highly intuitive and you're sensitive to energies, not just people energies, but environmental energies. I'm sensitive to that as well. You can walk into a room. Do you feel like sometimes you can walk into a room and you feel that people fight a lot in this area, or you feel that there's a lot of stress or anger or anxiety in a specific area, or in a specific room or in a specific house.
When there's nobody in there,
Either way.
I think it's more when there's people there. Like I pick up on very subtle cues, and
Mhm.
my inner world paints a picture. Like I feel that whatever. But I feel like there's usually tangible cues, but I'm just a lot more sensitive to it. Like that's why I don't know if I'm like telepathic, even though, oh my gosh, I have an example of one time when my husband he was out of town, and I called him and I said, I'm really concerned about XYZ. And he told me later that was exactly what was happening.
Wow.
So I don't know if that was just like, okay, I was just concerned about that, or like, I don't know. It was like suddenly I felt the need to call him and ask him about it.
Yeah, it's definitely part of being the telepathic and empath. I believe you also have precognitive,
What's precognitive?
that you can have either premonitions, visions, or dreams about something that will happen in the future, either when you're awake or when you're sleeping.
And these are things that you can increase, like when we're doing the energy healing, like we'll become more in touch with that. But like it's kind of
Oh,
like
100%,
but if you
100%.
have the seed, then you have the ability to develop it more, right?
Correct.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Okay, so anyone else want to discuss chapter 1 real quick, or if they have any questions or anything that they want to add or clarify? No? Okay. All right, so on to chapter 2. Empaths, emotions, and health. How to stop absorbing other people's distress, other people's emotions, other people's vibrations. As an empath, our body in itself works very, very, very differently. When we get a stomach ache, the pain that we experience is more intensified than that of someone who doesn't fall under this category, because all of our senses are heightened. And that's with all the 5 senses plus the 6th sense that many of us also have. So because all of our senses are heightened, we feel everything even more so. Now, some people can have, like, let's say, when they feel emotions, they could feel sadness very deeply, or they could feel anger very deeply. It could be both. It could be one or the other. It doesn't have to be all inclusive. Now, the downside with being able to feel everything on such a magnitude, it starts to affect our spirit, like our physical bodies, and in so many ways. Like, for example, I'll give you a personal example of mine. Okay, when my husband is going through a lot of stress and anxiety, I literally feel his stress and anxiety in my bones. My stomach starts turning and I get nauseous and I get sick. I'm worried for him. He's someone that I love and I care about. I have to work on that healthy, like, energetic boundary. But when you feel someone's pain to that extent, you can get physically ill. But on the positive side, we're able to sense other people's vitality, happiness, vulnerability, and love, especially when they are afraid to speak up, to take that first step into blooming. We are the main tools that help them. We hand out our hands and say, here, take my hand. It's okay. I can help you. Because we feel the emotions that they don't express. We can, in a way, hear their thoughts or words that they're not saying, that they're keeping it to themselves. We feel all of that, which is a very good thing. It has helped so many people also come back from the ledge. And the downside, we also feel other people's discomfort, their stress levels, their negative emotions, their frustration, their anger, their fear. And we as empaths, we get tired when we don't know how to not absorb other people's emotions. And we get very sick when we're around toxic people. Noise, violence, rushing, and yelling. Now, the severity of the sickness, all depends on the empath. It doesn't mean that if you get very sick, then you're very empathic, or if you don't get very sick, then you're not so empathic. It's different for everybody. Getting sick when you're around toxic people or toxic energy, there is an actual term for it, and it's called empathic illness. It is where we experience someone else's symptoms as if they were our own. Now, before I continue with this paragraph, how many people have experienced that empathic illness? I know I have.
I'm chronically ill, and it happened. I mean, I have Lyme disease, but it happened during a period of extreme stress in my house. So I definitely would say, there's at least some relation, especially to the extreme that my Lyme disease manifests. And I get very stressed when my kids are screaming in the house. Like I really can't handle it when everyone's screaming.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. Well, our prayers are with you, and may Hashem give you strength.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there are certain settings that are more stressful for empaths and other people's emotions, and symptoms can get stuck in our bodies. So in order to survive as an empath, it is very essential to learn how to stop absorbing other people's emotions and pain, how to ground ourselves in overstimulation and environments that are not empath friendly. So with last class, we went over the techniques of shielding and grounding. And like I mentioned in the WhatsApp, if you have the time, do both of them at once and do the grounding first and then the shielding. But if you don't have the time for both, then at least do the shielding. So now we're going to be talking about mainstream medicine and empaths. The subsection is actually called the limitations of turning to mainstream medicine. This section, I would have to say, I became, I guess you could say, a victim of this. Conventional healthcare has some serious deficiencies when it comes to helping sensitive people. They're not really fully aware of not just our sensitivity to emotions, but we have also sensitivity to light. We have sensitivity to noise, sensory. A lot of us have sensory issues. And believe it or not, a lot of empaths, at least highly empathic people that I have met, have some kind of autoimmune or neurological disease or something that's going on with them. And it's a lot more manageable when you learn how to properly protect yourself, properly ground yourself, and learning how to not absorb your environment. It helps a lot with whatever symptom a person has. So we are often misdiagnosed as hypochondriacs or neurotics, in a frustrating way to be treated when you're vulnerable and in need, or they may be sent to a psychiatrist for a prescription for antidepressants like Prozac, anti-anxiety medication. Not a lot, but quite a few empaths that I have met, especially the very highly intuitive one with mediumship abilities, many of them have been misdiagnosed as bipolar or schizophrenic, severe anxiety, or severe depression. I've had clients like those. And when I got to the root cause of everything and I taught them how to balance their emotions and shield themselves properly, taught them how not to absorb other people's energies and emotions and environmental energy and everything that goes with it, they have improved. If they were at, I don't know, let's say 40%, they jumped from 40 to 85. A lot of us just don't have the tools to deal or know how to deal with our sensitivities that we have with this world. Additionally, with mainstream media, empaths may be diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, which is a condition that is associated with an impaired ability to process sensory stimulation. When I had my son diagnosed with ADHD, they also slapped on there SPD, the sensory processing disorder. Another connection that I've realized a lot when it comes to empaths, diagnosis of ADHD, ADD, autistic, we all have the same common denominator. They don't know how to deal with our sensitivity. They put a label on it. And then they ask, how can you manage your ADHD without medication? Because I don't have ADHD. I'm just a sensitive person to my energetic environment. I learned how to shield myself. I learned how to protect myself. I learned how to not absorb my surroundings. And I'm perfectly fine right now. I'll give you another example, okay? My son, love him to death, okay? Everyone thought ADHD, sensory processing disorder, you name it. The school wanted him on medications, put him on medication, didn't help. Medications, if anything, made it worse. So I taught my son some grounding techniques. I taught my son some shielding techniques. I helped them learn and understand proper hashkafa, which is very important, especially when they are at an age where they love to express themselves. You know, my son loves to listen in on, this course. He loves learning about, self-identity and how to find out who you are. And he's only 8 years old. Ever since I started teaching him the shielding and the protection and all of that, he's been off medication, no issues. Once in a while, a hiccup here and there. Okay. All right, fine. But when he notices that he is out of balance, when I put him to bed, Mom, can you do a meditation with me? Sure. Mommy, can we do grounding? Sure. Mommy, can you find my tourmaline necklace? Okay. It's for the fact that they don't have the right proper tools how to deal with our sensitivities. They want to put labels on us and medicate us when it's really not necessary. So it says over here, continuing with the mainstream medicine and empaths being diagnosed with sensory processing disorder. It also states those with this diagnosis are considered to be abnormally sensitive to crowds, light, sound, and touch. Now, this author specifically, she doesn't like she doesn't like labeling anything as a disorder. She goes, people are just different. People handle things differently. And I give her a lot of kudos, you know, for writing that in her book. So now before I'm going to move on to the next subtopic, which is optimizing your health. Are you a physical or emotional empath? Does anyone have anything they would like to add or say regarding the medications and the diagnosis and everything that we just spoke about?
I'll go.
Okay.
For me, I can't do medications, period. My body rejects them like, you know, anything or whatever, which I always say is a good thing. So, I just always sit there. I've kind of gotten used to like the misdiagnosis or getting the roundabout labeling. And you know, for me, what you just said at the end, the whole like crowds, lights, sounds, all that stuff, that's Rainin and I to a T. We don't like any of that. We're not big on that at all. You know, and it's sad how today in society, or maybe for like the longest time, you know, they got to put labels on everything. And they think there's a cure for everything. And sometimes the cure, I found out that the cure is just natural. You know, we all know what will naturally work for us. Like, for my son and I, we just recharge, you know, be at home, recharge. We also watch like what we eat. We really try and eat as healthy as possible, because we've noticed that we're even sensitive to foods. There's food sensitivities, you know, and I think, you know, sometimes it doesn't get brought up, you know. As an empath, you can also be sensitive to the food that you eat.
That's right.
You know?
I was going to be covering that.
Oh, am I ahead of you? Am I ahead of that book? That's funny. Priceless. But that is something that I noticed. My son, more in particular than me, I think, but very sensitive to foods. If we eat that junk food, that processed food, oh my gosh, forget about it. But if we eat healthy or whatever, everything is good. So I definitely noticed that. I noticed that, you know, with him, he'll pick up the energies from like video games and stuff like that, whether it's good or bad, you know, from people who make the games, you know? So yeah, that's all.
Okay. So now that we covered that, is everyone pretty much clear if they are an emotional or a physical empath? Because if so, then I can just go straight into the assessment, give you guys some time to get a piece of paper and pen. So let me know, type go if you want me to just move on to the assessment to find out if we're physical or emotional empath. Or if you want me to cover the details of it, then you could type in details.
What do you mean by details?
Basically, it just goes a little bit more in depth, like trying to understand what's the difference between a physical empath and an emotional empath. You know, physical.
So we spoke about it. Yes, physical
Yeah,
is more. They're very sensitive to pain and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very sensitive to pain, and they get ill more often.
Oh, because I mean, I'm ill, but I'm not like, I mean, obviously I don't like being in pain, but I tolerate high levels of pain, I think better than other people might.
Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go straight into the assessment. Can everyone tell me if they have a piece of paper and a pen ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Can you be both?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. I'm not sure. Thanks, but okay.
Okay. All right, are you guys ready? All right, so the self-assessment is, am I a physical or an emotional empath? So for the section, am I a physical empath? Ask yourself these following questions. I'm going to read it slow so you guys could have some time to write it down. Have I ever sat next to someone in pain and started to feel pain too? Do I get physically ill in crowds? Have I been called a hypochondriac, but no, my symptoms are real? Do I react to other people's stress by developing a physical symptom in my own body? Do I get energized by some people and depleted by others? Do I frequently go to doctors without getting treatments that help? Am I chronically fatigued? Or do I have mysterious or unexplained ailments? Do I often feel exhausted by crowds and I prefer to stay home? Is my body sensitive to sugar, alcohol, and processed foods? Am I an emotional empath? Ask yourself these following questions. Do I pick up other people's emotions, such as anxiety, anger, or frustration? Do I get an emotional hangover after an argument or conflict? Do I feel depressed or anxious in crowds? Do I want to fix people and take away their stress? Can I intuitively feel other people's feelings even when they are unexpressed? Is it hard to distinguish other people's emotions from my own? Do I care so much about others that I neglect my own needs? Do I overeat to cope with difficult people or emotional stress? Do I experience mood swings from sugar, carbohydrates, or other specific foods? Now, with each category, going over the physical empath, if you had one or two yeses in that category, then you're partially that type of an empath. If you had 3 to 4 yeses, that indicates that you're moderately that type of an empath. 5 or more yeses indicate that you are definitely that type of empath. And yes, you can be both. Does anybody want to share what they got? Or should I move on to empathic illness? Both. Both. Me too.
I figured.
Uh,
Dude, that emotional one though, I had like 3 no's, but I think that's because I've been working on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I could see where I was once a yes, because I was hearing yes and no, but when I rethought of the question, I could know was a no. Yeah. But oh my gosh, physical, every question, yes. I was like, can we just put the paper down, the pen? I don't need to write anymore. Even Rainin, he's right to me because we're waiting for his dad to come pick him up. He was going yes. And he's like, I don't understand what she means by this. I go, you're probably a yes.
And that's okay if we're both. We're learning what we are and we're learning how to deal with it.
Yep, 100%.
We've gone late to the party. Can you review right quick what the different categories for empaths were? Because I know when we did this the last class there, I can't find my notes.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to do a brief review.
Please.
I was talking about empaths and emotions and how certain empaths internalize other people's emotions and they can get physically sick. And sometimes when we're around toxic people or toxic energy, we can also get physically sick. So you want me to go over the categories?
Please.
Okay. So with a physical empath, ask yourself the following questions. Have I ever sat next to someone in pain and started to feel pain too? Do I get physically ill in crowds? Have I been called a hypochondriac but know my symptoms are real? Do I react to other people's stress by developing a physical symptom in my own body? Do I get energized by some people and depleted by others? Do I frequently go to doctors without getting treatments that help? Am I chronically fatigued, or do I have a mysterious or unexplained ailment? Do I often feel exhausted by crowds, preferring to stay home? Is my body sensitive to sugar, alcohol, and processed foods? This is for physical empath. Now I'm going to go into emotional empaths. Ask yourself the following questions. Do I could pick up other people's emotions, such as anger, anxiety, and frustration? Do I get an emotional hangover after an argument or conflict? Do I feel depressed or anxious in crowds? Do I want to fix people and take away their stress? Can I intuitively feel other people's feelings even when they are unexpressed? Is it hard to distinguish other people's emotions from my own? Do I care so much about others that I neglect my own needs? Do I overeat to cope with difficult people or emotional stress? Do I experience mood swings from sugar, carbohydrates, or other specific foods? So if you have 1 to 2 yeses, it means that you're partially type of that empath. If you have 3 to 4 yeses, it indicates that you're moderately that type of an empath. 5 or more yeses will indicate that you are that type of an empath, and it's okay to be both. A lot of people are both. Was there anything else you wanted me to cover, Leah?
Didn't you, the last class, say something about being tied to the earth?
Yeah, that was the grounding meditation. Yeah,
Okay,
I put that on the WhatsApp group.
okie dokie. No, this was great. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so now going on to empathic illnesses. Empathic illness basically means that we manifest symptoms that are not our own. And it is possible to catch it from other people. It feels like it's yours, but it's not. It's a confusing predicament. For instance, and she's giving an example with one of her patients. Alicia actually felt her asthmatic sister's shortness of breath in her own body, even though she didn't have the condition. Alicia herself was having shortness of breath, but Alicia doesn't have asthma, or she doesn't suffer from shortness of breath. She just internalized her sister's shortness of breath and her sister's asthmatic condition. So more often though, picking up other people's disease will aggravate symptoms an empath already has. In severe cases, empathic illnesses can leave people chronically ill, housebound, and paralyzed by social anxiety. Empaths are prone to social anxiety because they're overwhelmed by the multiple spoken and unspoken signals people give off in groups. Empaths are also very sensitive to rejection. These individuals become so exhausted and burned out from feeling the whole world's stress, and they just can't function. So here's a list of empathic related illnesses, also known as, empathic illness. And if you guys want, you could write this down. I'm going to read this slowly. Adrenal fatigue. Autoimmune diseases, such as Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, and inflammatory bowel disease. Agoraphobia, the fear of going outside. Phobias in general, for example, crowds, driving, large stadiums, events. Chronic depression. Chronic fatigue. Fibromyalgia. Pain, panic attacks, and social anxiety. And some people even suffer from a disorder called SAD, which basically means seasonal affective disorder. They get affected by the seasons. I don't know about you, but I definitely fall under this category in so many ways, more than one. Anybody else?
Right here. right here. Everything but the fear of outside. And it's funny because when you were listing all those and you said sad, I thought social anxiety disorder, but when you said seasonal, whatever, I go, I am so affected by seasons. This is my hibernation season. But it was kind of funny because when you said them all, I literally have been diagnosed the way you were saying, except for the fear of outside.
Agoraphobia.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't have. I think. Well, I haven't been labeled with it. Let's put it that way. But yeah. So I can totally 100% relate.
Now, the thing is, once we understand what we are sensitive to, and we learn very, what's the word I'm looking for? Religiously on shielding and grounding and protecting our own energetic field, our pain will be manageable, our symptoms will be manageable, and most of us will not need medications for a lot of the illnesses that I listed over here. Would anyone like to share how they feel with the section that we just read before I go into the protection strategy, tips to relieve adrenal fatigue?
So I don't particularly struggle with adrenal fatigue, but what I do have issues with are SAD for sure, And probably when I was growing up, you know, like as an adolescent, it was at its worst, and I had no idea what it was. And also, I probably register on the social anxiety a little bit. Again, when I was an adolescent, it was probably at its worst. But now, all these years later, I still have some seasonal bouts, and I still have some social anxiety that creeps in.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to share?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm a bit sensitive about, like, you know, you said that when we learn how to shield and do those grounding, then our symptoms will become manageable.
Yeah,
I guess I've tried so many things, and I've been told by so many people, you'll do this, you'll go on this protocol, you'll do this, you know, spiritual, emotional, physical, whatever thing. And I've been through a very, very rocky journey. So I guess it's just a sensitive thing for me.
I understand.
Thank you.
The only thing we can do is that we could do our best. You know, anything above and beyond that is all Hashem.
Yeah, I really believe that when Hashem wants the refuah to come, it'll come. But obviously, we have to keep making our kalim.
Yeah, we have to keep making our efforts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So one of the most common illnesses for empaths is fatigue, being drained. So let's go into the protection strategy, tips to relieve adrenal fatigue so we don't become depleted. Eat a whole, okay, I'm going into right now the tips. I'm going to read it slowly. Number 1, eat a whole food diet. Avoid processed and junk foods, gluten, sugar, and white flour. Number 2, add Himalayan salt to your diet. Number 3, exercise. Practice gentle exercise and stretching and build up stamina and energy. Number 4, meditate. Meditation increases endorphins, which are natural painkillers, and reduces stress hormones. Number 5, get a blood test to measure your cortisol level. If your cortisol level is low, consider temporary natural cortisol replacement per your physician's recommendation. Number 6, rest a lot. Sleep is restorative and healing. Number 7, take B vitamins daily. Number 8, take 2,000 to 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily in the acute phase. Now, this next tip is the massive one, and it's going to be discussed more in probably the next class. Eliminate the energy vampires in your life. Rid yourself of toxic people, or at least set clear limits and boundaries so they don't sap up your energy. Now I'm going to be going into briefly discussing regarding empaths and exercise. When we do exercise, we are actually expelling a lot of tension and a lot of toxins from our body, which is very fundamental on clearing our own energetic field. Now, exercise doesn't have to mean going for a long walk. It could be a 10, 15-minute walk. It could be, even something small. Start with something small and work your way up if you can. Take a tiny walk around your building or around your block and then come back home. That's perfectly fine. But to be able to snap out of your routine, do something for you, and then go back to your routine is very helpful for empaths. Now I'm going to be getting into the self-protection for empaths. 14 strategies to combat toxic energy. I'm not going to go into details with all of these strategies because there's 14 of them and it's going to take a while. And I still have a few more things that I'm going to cover before we finish this class. So how can we tell if my emotions or my symptoms are mine or if they're someone else's? And if they're not mine, how do I let it go? Let's start to begin talking about the basic strategies. Strategy number 1. Ask yourself, is this symptom or emotion mine or someone else? If you're noticing a sudden change of mood or a sudden change of mood or physical state around a person, then chances are the symptom that you're experiencing is not your own. It's the other person's. When you're experiencing your own symptom or your own emotion, there wouldn't be anything in your immediate environment that surrounding you that would trigger it. But if you become next to someone or if you enter a specific room and then boom, then that means you're being triggered by someone or something else's symptom or emotions. Does that make sense? Okay. Strategy number 2, breathe and repeat. Whenever we're around negative or toxic energy or people. Breathing changes our energetic flow. That's why whenever we start meditation, we do breathing exercises. We start changing our energetic flow. So breathe. It's okay. You'll be fine. Number 3, step away from what's disturbing you. If you have the option or the chance to step away or disconnect for a little bit, do it. And if you don't have that option, just breathe and tell yourself, in a little bit, I'll be able to be in my own world. Just be patient. You'll be okay. Strategy number 4, limit physical contact. Hugs are a choice. You know, sometimes there are people that come up to you automatically wanting to give you hugs, and some people just don't. It's actually very protective for your own energetic field, picking and choosing who you would like to hug and who not. Hugs are a choice, they're not mandatory. And one thing that I've noticed when I first learned this, I stopped. And I noticed a huge change. If I didn't feel like hugging the person, if the person's energy didn't feel right to me, I would not give the hello hug. Strategy number 5, detox in water. One of our best ways of detoxing ourselves, especially empaths, is water. Baths, showers, foot spas, adding Epsom salt, adding Dead Sea salt, add some black pepper in there too if you want. Going to the beach, swimming in lakes, you name it. Water is very good for us. It's one of the natural elements of the earth, and we're very connected to it. Strategy number 6, set limits and boundaries. We cannot control other people. We can control ourselves. So we have to put those boundaries up. And we discussed it in the codependency series regarding the limits and the boundaries. And again, we'll get more into depth when we start going into the Imuna and techniques series. Strategy number 7, visualize cutting a cord between you and the toxic person. If you feel that you are too connected with someone's unpleasant physical or emotional state, visualize a cord of light extending from your belly to theirs, and then lovingly set the intention of cutting that cord. And I will be getting into more details of cord cutting in the energy healing course. Strategy number 8, plan alone time to regroup. Everyone needs to regroup with themselves, to reconnect with themselves, to reconnect with their own power. Alone time is very much needed. It doesn't have to be used and abused, but it's needed. Strategy number 9, spend time in nature and practice earthing. Earthing is basically being able to, it's not just spending time in nature. Earthing is being able to put your hand by a bush or by a tree and you're feeling the leaves, or when you're on grass, you're running your fingers through the grass and you're really paying attention to the vibrational energy that's going on all around you, especially with nature. Number 10, get plenty of sleep and take power naps if you need to. Power naps don't have to be 30 minutes, don't have to be 20 minutes. Sometimes I could take a power nap for 5 minutes and I feel refreshed and I could last for 4 more hours. So it's very important for us because we get drained very easily. And it happens, and it's gonna happen. And there's no way of protecting it 100%. You know, these are tips to help get all of our symptoms manageable. Strategy number 11, take breaks from being online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Test yourself. See if you could put your phone away start with 1 hour. Okay? Don't answer your phone. Don't answer your text messages. Don't look at Facebook. Don't look at Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, an hour. For some of you, it might be hard to do it. Some of you might be very easy. If you could do it for 2 hours, awesome. 2 hours is a very good time gap to be disconnected from being online and just focusing on you and what you need to do. Strategy number 12. Tips for traveling. How to stay centered in airports and in planes. All of that can also be a big time sensory overload. Airports are crowded. Planes are also crowded. Everyone is all up in everyone's space. So the first tip with that is check your luggage so you don't have to fight for overhead bins. Next tip, choose an aisle seat so you can get out easily. That's what I do. I used to love the window seat when I was a kid, but when I started growing up and realizing all these sensory overloads, whenever I would take a plane, I'm like, nope, I want the aisle, please. Only the aisle. I'm not willing to sit anywhere else. Next tip, to avoid the crowd boarding the plane, wait until the other passengers have boarded and then casually walk on to take your seat. In other words, don't be the first one on. You could be the last one on. Therefore, everyone is already on the plane, in their seats, don't have to deal with any crowds. Next tip, bring clothes to keep you warm since the air conditioning can be chilly. I think that's, up to a person. Bring water to stay hydrated. Very important. For some people that are very sensitive to, I guess, air, if it's like, if they need air purifiers or things like that. So try wearing an air purifier around your neck, which generates negative ions to purify the stale recirculated air on the plane. Use earbuds or noise canceling headphones. Avoid draining conversation with others and strangers. Take time on that airplane flight of yours to center yourself by meditating. In an event of any turbulence, stay grounded by placing your attention on your feet rather than your fear. Now we're going into strategy number 13. Practice the 3-minute heart meditation, which we're going to discuss right now. To counter emotional or physical distress, respond quickly by removing yourself from the immediate toxic situation and meditate for as little as 3 minutes. You can do this at home, at work, on a park bench, wherever. So going into the 3-minute heart meditation, close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths and relax. Then place your palm over your heart chakra in the middle of your chest, like this. Focus on a beautiful image that you love. such as a sunset, a rose, ocean, child's face. Feel the energy of that love building in your heart and body. And let this loving feeling soothe you. Imagine that it starts growing roots from your heart and starts spreading all over your body so that there's no room for anything else to be there. As you fill yourself up with that energetic feeling of love, there's no room for toxic energy to take place. You can take your time with this meditation. You can repeat this meditation. And this meditation is absolutely amazing for immediate grounding, picturing something that's just so beautiful, something that you love, and just enjoying that feeling, that emotion, that energy, having it internally and spreading it out. Repeat this as many times as you want during the day. Next strategy. Number 14, be fully present in your body. Empaths are the most protected when they are fully present in their own body. Forge a loving relationship with yourself instead of fearing it, loathing it, existing as a disembodied head. Empaths need to be in their own bodies, meaning we need to love ourselves for who we are. We need to love our skin. We need to be in our own bodies in order to ward off unwanted energies. When we are not happy with ourselves, when we can't stand ourselves, can't look at ourselves in the mirror, we give room for unwanted energies to enter. And many of you that are in my Facebook group know how far down that could spiral downwards. Your body is your temple that houses your spirit, which is 100% true. We need to see it as a friend rather than an enemy. I want to go over a little bit of an empath affirmation. And you guys can write this down and repeat it to yourselves. I am strong. I am loving. I am positive. I have the power to clear all negativity and stress from my body. I embrace my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness. How are you guys doing?
Can you repeat after, well, I have the power to clear all.
Yeah. I have the
I
power to
missed.
clear all negativity and stress from my body. I embrace my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness. how did you guys all feel with the strategies and the exercise and the protection, the relief for adrenal fatigue that we discussed?
Rivka,
Yeah.
where did you get that heart meditation from? Ooh, girl. That is literally like a vibrational shot, as opposed to a shot of rum or tequila. Awesome. Awesome.
Amazing.
Really good. Really good.
Good. I'm glad.
Becca, that's what Leah was just talking about. That's the one I'm having a hard time with. It was giving me anxiety.
The heart meditation,
Yeah.
just
My heart was-
visualizing something that you love and enjoying the feeling of it.
I was trying, and I don't know if what we were discussing that's going on right now with me. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I
Okay,
don't.
I tried to
I think you have that too much in your
No, I was trying to visualize what I love, what brings me peace and everything like that. And every time I tried, my heart just was racing faster.
That's very interesting. Contact the rabbi
Yeah, I
regarding.
know. Yeah.
I think he needs to be aware of that.
Yeah, it was just racing faster. Because I know what brings me peace, like you were saying, and everything like that, and calm. And when I was trying, and I was doing everything that you said, I was even having a hard time doing just the deep breathing in and out. I was starting to not being able to breathe.
Right.
So yeah, that's the only part. But the other part, the part that you did after that, the whole the talking thing that we just did,
Mhm.
that one I was like, that feels good. So yeah.
Okay. Who else would like to share how they felt regarding all the strategies and everything like that? Come on, guys.
I wished I'd known them, like, 40 years ago. But I would have been 15. Okay, no, let's say 45. Because yeah, I can see this like being a major thing with my life and helping me physically and emotionally. So I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for sharing. And I'm really excited to be learning all of this with you because seriously, the next class, I'm really hoping we will have enough time to fit all of this in, but I'm going to be going over empaths and addiction, empaths and relationships. So yeah, we all wish that we could have learned this, from the get-go and had all of these tools as we were growing up, but it's better now than ever, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's see who has not shared yet. Yael, would you like to share a little bit?
Hi, sorry, I lost you there for a second. I don't know. I'm kind of taking everything in. And, it's interesting because as we're talking about empaths and the different levels of what they are and what the symptoms are and all of that, what I find very interesting, hearing it all, I think I'm far more of a psychic medium than an empath. I definitely feel feelings. I definitely can read the room, but I don't have like the physical. And okay, let me take a step back. If we're dealing with somebody like I had a hush, can I share a story really quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so during my first marriage, when I was in my very early 20s, I had to be about 22 or 23 years old. And this was still during the time that boys turn the TV down. I'm in a class, turn the TV down. And this was during a time in my life where I had still, you know, had not come to full terms with who I am. You know, it was very difficult. But so my ex-husband and I decide that we're going to make a stopover in Amsterdam on our way to Israel. So we get on the plane. I get off. I get up to go to the bathroom. As I'm walking down the aisle, I start to feel this nauseating, you know, your mouth starts to salivate. Like my mouth started to salivate. And I just had this disgusting disgusting darkness just came over me. And I was walking closer towards the bathroom. Does anybody remember the death of Natalie Holloway?
Yeah.
So the man who killed her is Joran van der Sloot. And if you guys remember, there was several years that the police could not, by hook or by crook, really connect him to the crime. You know what? They could, but I'm saying they didn't have enough evidence at the time. Remember, it wasn't until he killed the other girl in Lima, Peru, that he got caught. Like Joran van der Sloot is not serving time for the death of Natalie Holloway. He killed another woman in Peru. Anyway, I digress. I'm walking towards the bathroom, sure as shit, clear as day, in front of my very eyes. And I met eyes with this man. It was Joran van der Sloot. And he is a native of Holland. I saw an actual...
No way.
Girlfriend, I swear on my mother's grave, and I don't usually do these things.
Did you pass out or what?
I immediately knew who that was because I have always known he's guilty. And it was like when I actually saw somebody that effing evil, my radar went crazy. But that could all, I don't know that has to do with empathic abilities. I was literally eye locked with a stone cold killer. That story is 100% true. And to this day, I will never forget the Joran van der Sloot feeling. I will never forget it.
I hear you.
So I don't know how much of an empath I am, you know,
Well,
like,
have you listened to the first class?
yes.
Okay. Did you fill out the assessment?
I mean, I don't know where it is, but I did it. I did.
Okay. All right, like I mentioned, you know,
I
there are
just
people
feel
that
like
are paths and they have just different levels of it. So
when I'm in the company of somebody who is solidly evil, which does not happen often, I definitely feel them in the room.
that's a type of empath. So yeah, you might not have everything all at once. You know, you could have a certain section of it. Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure.
Now, Bina, would
I'll
you
turn
like
my
to share?
camera off now.
Is she still on? Yeah. Bina, would you like to share?
Sorry. But I can't right now.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. All right. So unfortunately, I don't have time to get into the next section. I'm going to be covering that hopefully next week, which is empaths and addiction. And then going into also empaths and relationships. And the last class of being an empath should be about how to deal with the energetic vampires that we got to deal with on a daily basis. So I hope you guys all enjoyed today's class. As soon as the recording is going to be available, it'll be available via Zoom for about 24 hours. And then it's going up on your student portals. Yay. I'm so happy I got that up and running, even though it's not 100%, it's something, right? Thank God. All right, ladies, thank you so much for tuning in. God willing, we will meet next week on Tuesday, same time, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. You ladies have a wonderful evening and a wonderful Shabbos.
Yashikaya, this was great.
Thank you.